Well, that was a nightmare. Chai's finally recovered from his post energy drink crash, having to get through that. But now we can redeem all these rewards. Over 50% complete at this point.
Nice.
For the record, this is all 20 actually redeemed at once, because you have to go into this menu to manually redeem each of them. So I decided that off camera I would just get the remaining challenges I needed, because I don't need to show me actually getting them all. But our rewards, as I was talking about, this is one of the 2 new reverb attacks. Cinnamon gets an encore.
I feel like someone really enjoyed the Mario RPGs when they came up with that.
Oh yeah, along with like the fucking like flaming spinning bird kick into the air.
Yeah, that is some Mario and Luigi ass shit.
Unfortunately, this is our second new special attack.
Oh,
Smidge will not leave us alone.
Go away,
Fortunately,
Smidge.
he keeps enemies away from us, so he stays at a perfect range.
Have you ever been hit by a smart fridge? Once.
Yeah, wasn't pleasant. But anyway, we're back to the game. Time for like the best feature of the arcade update: Power Up Tower Up. Similar to Rhythm Tower in practice, but it's got a big twist starting out. Life, reverb, normal attack strength, stun damage, and special attack damage, as well as a few other parameters, have all been reduced.
I'm gonna go out on a limb here. Is this a fucking roguelike mode?
There's some randomization, but it's not so random to the point where I do not consider this as being roguelite or anything like that. You know? So here it is.
Because I fucking love roguelites.
So, it's 25 floors of escalating battles because of reasons. We started what is basically at a debuff state. You know, like our health and reverb gauge, as you can see, are back to their normal states. But even our attacks, like there's no upgrade items that we get in the main game, as you notice, that like increase like the strength of our attacks or stun damage. So this is just a case where we're actually at a disadvantage. But the way it works is that before starting each fight, you have to pick a bonus, or like a buff or debuff, depending on how much you value getting a high score multiplier.
Yeah.
Generally, if you go for the high score multiplier, that means you're going to get like a debuff, which in this case is called a bug. Also, with this presumably being inside a game or whatever, like a reality program, yes, you can see Zanzo's in the background laughing it up. He's got the menacing aura.
Fuck you, Kakyoin. No one likes you.
So at specific floors that are not randomized, you get the option to either proceed with the regular floor as normal or take a challenge route, which is basically kind of another version of kind of what you would get out of those Spectra rooms, but with new challenges that didn't even appear in the Spectra rooms themselves. For instance, we have to chase after Smidge and beat the shit out of him.
I don't want to satisfy Smidge. I just want to state that for the record. I am against this.
Yeah. He does drop a lot of health drinks, though. Not like it really matters because we're not being attacked by enemies.
Yeah.
At least yet.
Yeah.
Because here's the thing. As far as randomization, these challenge routes, their challenges do actually change on each playthrough. So it's not always Smidge that we have to chase after on floor 2. It could be something else entirely. And conversely, we could face Smidge, like we could like do this challenge against him on a later floor, and it would actually escalate in challenge to reflect it by actually having enemies get in the way. So in those cases, like him dropping a shit ton of energy drinks would actually be a benefit. It is important though, like you want to make sure under any circumstances that you do complete these challenges and do not fail them because you miss out on a lot of score potential. Yeah.
No, I'm going to say other than, the score, because that's not really a thing in roguelikes, this is a roguelike. And I would probably play an entire game of this now that I think about it.
Yeah. The thing that just sticks out to me the most is that, like, it takes into account, like, the thing that I always wish that, like, more action games, like modern action games, would be acknowledging of, which is the fact that because they have like these progression systems in place, it feels so easy for a lot of them to like design the combat in such a way that it's like playing at a disadvantaged state only ever makes sense to them if you're in what is basically the part of the game that feels like it's teaching you how to play. You know, like the first playthrough being the tutorial, which seems like a gross misinterpretation of what that like initial phase of what that initial stage should be.
Yeah.
Because in a sense, getting to the end of an arcade game by feeding a bunch of quarters could be considered the end of like the tutorial phase because you've learned what the game has to offer.
Yeah.
Now you just have to be good because it's all skill, and progression systems kind of dilute that to a certain extent, but it depends on how they're used. Here at least, having to deal with certain restrictions like not having a max reverb gauge or having like like not a full health bar or limited stun damage and all this other stuff. It's like that like fighting with those limitations can be a good thing, you know? Like depending on how it's done with the challenges that it presents, it can be something that is enjoyable and not a slog and makes you better appreciate the tools you do have. That said, though, I do have specific goals when I am going through this this run that you see, because I did aim to get as many of the different challenges out of the way. One of which is obviously going to be I have to clear every single challenge route as they come up.
Yeah.
But other things as well is okay, actually, I'll confess, because it had been a while since I recorded this. I forget exactly like what I ended this run on as far as challenges to complete. Because as far as challenges that incentivize different playstyles, there are ones where it's like complete without ever upgrading your health bar or reverb gauge, or conversely upgrading them all. There's ones where you completely ignore upgrading your partner's capabilities and just like focus all your attack and stun damage strength into Chai. And the inverse is also true. You could do a run of this mode where you do not increase Chai's damage potential whatsoever, but you turn your entire team into a fucking powerhouse.
Solak versus Supergroup.
Yeah, that's the way to do it. For now, though, I think, as you can see here, I am making a note to try and like get my my light and heavy damage like upgraded as high as possible. But I do think kind of at this stage, I'm pretty sure I'm focusing on going through this in a way where like I'm not upgrading my health and reverb gauge, which is a big gamble because 2 hits basically did as much damage as like the starting enemies on Master Ninja mode and Ninja Gaiden Black do to you when you start the game.
Yeah, you have no health left.
Yeah, it's real rough because with your reverb gauge being reduced, that also means you lose out on any equipped like reverb attacks as well as chips.
Yeah.
So that is the other thing to keep in mind as well. But I mean that's still fine. You know, that gets back to the fact that, you know, you played the main game for enough time, you probably settled into the rhythm of these are my special attacks and these are my chip loadouts. These are what I like. Sometimes you need a reminder of what it's like to actually play vanilla.
You can't be an all-powerful god all the time.
Also, we haven't really mentioned it this many minutes in, but I hope you appreciate the Aha Take On Me skin for Chai.
I was wondering about that.
It's actually one of the cosmetics that you unlock when you complete Rhythm Tower mode like a second time with S rank, like all the way through. So yeah, like not only does the game expect you like from the outset to be able to like complete a challenge where you finish Rhythm Tower all the way through, they expect you to finish it twice as like a way of proving to them, okay, you got through, show us again that you can do it even better and that it's not just you like eking it out for survival.
Show us it's not a fluke.
Yes. Anyway, here's a challenge where we cannot do any sort of jumping, which again, kind of like the Spectre Room challenge where you cannot use the analog stick to move, it does remind you that there are still plenty of ways to get up into the air that do not require you to press the jump button. So as long as you do not reflexively hit the A or X button, depending on your controller of choice, you're good.
I'm gonna say easier said than done.
Yeah, because it's very much a case of like your reflexes are the end of you if that happens.
Yeah.
the game literally giving us an option of like choosing like 2 like special attacks that require 4 Reaver bars, even knowing full well we don't have enough for that. So I'm just sticking with making sure that like my damage and other stuff is like up to par. And if there ends up being a floor where it turns out that there isn't an upgrade that fits with the playstyle I want, then that is a perfect time to either go for a bug, such as this one, Lonely Boy, where you take like a whole lot more damage because you're Chai, you're just by yourself, or you could just keep it safe by picking Nah, I'm good.
Yeah. No bonuses, but no negatives either.
Nah, pretty much. At the very least, like kind of as you go forward, it's like it's very difficult, I think, to be like to actually like do something where. Okay, so I guess this is like the other thing as well, that like it's eventually coming up in the video, but I might as well explain it now as like a heads up ahead of time. I do die in this mode. However, that does not mean it's the end of the run. But dying, like getting a game over like on a floor, like when you lose all your health, that's not the end of the run. But what it is that you could choose to either end the run there if you were trying to do like a theoretically perfect max multiplier run of the game mode, or you can continue. But what it will do is that it will change your like score multiplier to be, I believe it's like 0.1 below whatever the multiplier was before you had started that floor. So it still lets you like change, like it lets you go back to like this menu where you get to decide on like your buff or like bug of choice, anything that like affects your multiplier. But the idea is that even if you die, the idea is that even if you want to like challenge this particular floor over and over again until you get it right with your preferred multiplier or like bonus, it doesn't change the fact that because of those death penalties, it's always going to be somewhat lower than it ever would have been if you had just done it right the first time. Yeah.
I mean, that's not a terrible way of doing it. Like, obviously, if you are a perfectionist, you're going to be like, no, we're doing this from the top again.
Yeah, and as far as like incentives for like getting a high multiplier, there is no challenge in this game mode that requires you to like somehow avoid dying and basically like not have to deal with like the multiplier penalty. But for the record, this is the floor that you'll see it happen, and you can probably see why, and it's what's in front of us.
Yeah. Not difficult to see why you crash out this early on.
Yeah. But this yeah, like having to think a lot more about like the kind of the bonuses that I want to pick, because yes, it is the right amount of randomization for me that I like to point out, where it is like you can suss out the logic behind like what is going to come at you. Like there's some randomization to like enemy waves for instance, but there are definitely some floors where you get to them and you realize, oh yeah, these floors are designed in such a way where like they want you to fight these specific enemies because it's a choke point.
Yeah.
So here I go. That was my first death, and thankfully it is the only death that I incur on what is otherwise like I'm gonna say like at the point that I recorded this, my best run of the entire mode.
Oh, okay.
between my main playthrough and the save file that I had specifically for recording this Let's Play. So, far as I'm concerned, a single death with like a slightly reduced multiplier than what the actual amount would have been at the end, fucking trivial.
Oh yeah.
It doesn't even register as something for me to stress over.
Yeah. I mean, near perfect. I'll take it.
Yeah, because again, like you do the math on it, it's like every death basically reduces like your maximum multiplier coming out of that floor by 0.1%.
Yeah.
It would feel a lot heavier, I think, if it was just a straight up no. It's just a full one non-decimal number. If it brought it down. And it's also in a way its own kind of generosity in a way, because not even like, not even Rhythm Tower really lets you do this as well. Because the idea is that, like, you could just, like, you know, back out early before even starting a floor if you want. It's kind of operating more on the traditional idea of Bloody Palace where, no, you die, that's the end of the run.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, like, there's plenty of other kind of battle modes like this where it gives you absolutely no quarter.
I was so upset that, like this was around the point where I started getting my head that, like, I absolutely needed to, like, pay more attention to, like, the rhythm assist to figure out what I was getting wrong with timing. It got to the point, actually, where in between recordings, because these enemies were added as part of the arcade update, that means you can actually fight them as well in the game's training mode. You know, like, once you at least encountered them, they become added to, like, the list of enemies that you can use for practice. And that was actually where I just used that opportunity to try and figure out, okay, like, what am I getting wrong with timing? Like, is it a game issue or a me issue?
Yeah.
And to my dismay, it was a me issue. But it's a me issue that I can't get all the way around. So I think it's the ultimate way to incentivize, you know, just try and avoid, like, the shockwave if you can.
Yeah. It's one of those really frustrating things because on the one hand, it's the game, you're like, well, that's unfair, why is it in? And if it's you, you're like, well, that fucking sucks. I'm going to have to either try harder or just give up.
Yeah, and considering how, like, on point I've gone with every other aspect of this game, it's especially tough. I feel like I would be, like, I think the thing, especially when I went through, like, practicing against those specific new enemies in training mode, is that I think it was, like, the first exposure to them in BPM Rush that really, like, made me fearful of them, or the idea that maybe something with the game's latency had gotten fucked up.
Yeah.
Because of how fast, like, the BPM Rush goes. It's the sort of thing where I feel like if there was an enemy remix mode for real and they were included and I was going through, like, the early stages of the game, I think it would actually give me a better environment and way of actually trying to, like, get a better handle on the timing for the rhythm parry attacks. Or I probably would have just bucked up by that point and been like, nah, you know what? Just jump over it. I mean, even now, during this recording, it still took me until, I think, by the time I finished getting all the footage I needed for this game, just realizing, you know, even trying to do a rhythm parry against the shockwave is too much work.
Oh, God, my eyes. I was hoping you would pick that one.
Yeah. Well, I did need the score bonus. This is a bug.
Oh, that is physically painful to look at.
It is. Yeah. Again, it still kind of gets back to how much I just find it absolutely, like, dog shit that, like, just how much, like, the standard def resolutions get joked on, considering how much you go back to, like, games that were actually made with those resolutions in mind, and, like, just the amount of lines in question don't really fucking matter because they worked around it.
Yeah, I mean, I have a lot of old DVDs that were, I don't know how to put it, but the only way I can describe it is they weren't formatted with flat screens and HD TVs in mind. So when you watch them, the video quality is markedly worse. Yeah. So
it's like, this is the sort of thing where it's like this is why, like, you know, upscalers like what RetroTink or OSSC have to offer is, like, this is why it needs to be more of a standard thing instead of just being omitted from all modern TVs. I would rather pay for TVs that have, like, RetroTink's technology built into it rather than whatever fucking smart bullshit is like plaguing the entire industry.
Yeah, and AI upscaling. Fuck off. Into the ditch with you.
We got a more reliable non-AI upscaling right here. It actually makes sense.
Yeah, and it works 99% of the time.
Yeah. I mean, it's worked for me all the time. I fucking love my RetroTink 5X.
I'm lucky enough to have an old flat screen TV that still has like SCART and composite sockets. So anytime I want to break out the PS2 or whatever, I just fire that up.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Especially if you're able to, like, run stuff on there where, like, it can take advantage of, like, progressive inputs like 480p.
Yep.
You know? Because it's always the interlace stuff. It's the interlace stuff that always, like, suffers the most.
Yeah. No, I'm just really lucky to... One of my friends was getting rid of it, and he was like, do you want this? Because I know that you like all this you know, old techie stuff for games and that, and I was like, yeah.
Yeah, that's a good get.
I was like, literally, the only way it could have gotten any better would have been if it was a Trinitron.
Yeah. Yeah,
at which point you said, yeah, one of my mates got rid of one of those last month. I was like, son of a bitch.
Yeah, it's like in that situation, I would just start going full like detective mode, trying to like hunt down anyone that saw it go anywhere, like figure out, like follow the trail.
Just one more thing. I'm glad that the chef
now I'm just trying to think of what would actually be a Columbo-ass line to say about someone just like making an like getting something clearly wrong about like TV inputs.
So you said it was a CCAM TV. Oh, that's interesting. It's only in France, not really a thing in the rest of Europe. But well, they sound similar. I'm sure that was just an honest mistake.
And then the guy just like calmly walks back to like his TV broadcast station and then just has like a fucking breakdown.
No one knows.
Damn it!
Even people in the industry don't know about fucking CCAM. What the fuck?
I totally believe that Columbo would. Never doubt Columbo's knowledge.
Of course,
he will send you to the Columbo dimension.
He is the perfect.
If he knows
God,
you did it.
He is the perfect God King of Justice. He is infallible.
Yes. So here's an infamous floor that kind of marks the halfway point. This is floor 13, and like the ultimate highlight of the game's like 2 new enemies, like the post-launch enemies. We've got a Chemno and a Shin Brutal. Have fun.
Oh. And this wasn't the floor that you died on.
No. Like this shocked me. And like I think when I got through this, it kind of like here's the thing. The first death on like floor 9, I let it slide because I at least knew what I did wrong.
Yeah.
This I knew was going to be the breaking point because I wanted to get I wanted to get a run of this mode without like any deaths if possible. And because I knew like the first time I played through Rhythm through like this mode, oh yeah, and I somehow finally managed to get that Rhythm parry attack somehow. That was when the gears, like the cogs in my brain were starting to turn, like synapses were firing off, like switches being like rapidly flipped when I realized, hold on, this is the run.
The hamster finally realized where the seats were.
This was the fastest run I've had of floor 13 in all my times playing Power Up, Tower Up. I shit you not. As soon as I got through it, it's like, alright, there's no turning back. Even if I took one more death at like a random ass spot, I wouldn't care because that was the floor I was most worried about losing time on and making my ability look bad.
Just gripping the controller going, this is what it means to go further beyond.
I mean, the alternative was going, fuck this shit, I'm not playing this shitty game again. Picks
yeah,
up controller 5
unfortunately,
seconds
I
later.
know you, and that's not an option.
No. That's cowardice.
Death before dishonor.
I took an oath sworn through courage that I would never give up. In fact, the words give up aren't even in my vocabulary.
Which is weird because you've used them like twice in a row.
Shut up! Choryujin!
The sun is burning in the east.
Yeah. Yep. Super robots are my soul, really. When I think about all the bad times, I just remember those. And I realize, yes, even if they don't exist, they are still heroes to me, damn it.
Giant robots believe in you, even if nothing else.
They believe in me as much as I believe in them. Anyway, another challenge route. This time, it's a returning challenge. Jumping will immediately fail, but as you can see, yeah, with it being this late in, we are obviously having to deal with like different enemy combinations.
Yeah.
But at least the priority remains the same. You know, you see a Senko, immediately book it. Do not give it the time to start doing its bullshit.
Yeah.
But also, gotta remember, with this second wave of, like, you know, boxers, you know, like with the fire attacks, just do not be tempted to jump over the fire, you know, because you can't dodge through it.
I was going to ask as well, with the challenge rooms, they all have timers. If you run out of time, is it just instantly fail, or is it like, okay, well, you don't get the prize at the end?
It is an instant fail. The challenge just stops there, and you do not get to, like, pick your bonus.
Does it just go back to the main route again?
Correct, yes. I forget, because it has been a couple months, if it boots you back to, like, the main, the main enemy composition that, like, is on this floor, or if it goes to the next. I forget exactly. I wouldn't be surprised if it makes you, like, I wouldn't be surprised if it just makes you, like, lose out on the multiplier entirely and just go straight to, like, the next one. Because, again, like failing the challenges, like, you saw how big those multiplier bonuses are. It is substantial.
And you're definitely catching in on the really nice bonuses now.
Yeah, like, by this point, as soon as you get past, like, the first, like, 3/5 of it, like, the ability to, like, upgrade, you know, like, your attack power or defense or all your other categories that were debuffed is, like, the multiplier on those starts to increase a lot. It's a very satisfying boost when you actually get to it, because it makes you feel like the debuffs, like, the disadvantages that you make a conscious decision to stick with for the first 15 floors start to feel validated, because now you've offset them with, like, the advantages that you've been working towards.
Yeah.
So that's the part that really makes this mode super satisfying. It's why I really like it. It gets back to how I like the idea that, you know, anything that is of an arcade style, like, routing needs to be an important part of the experience, where you have to, like, formulate and execute on a plan, even if, like, that plan includes, like, you know, working from nothing and then building yourself up to, like, a powered up state that has some level of consistency to it. Because because that's the thing that I like, even with the fact that there is, like, vague hints of this being kind of roguelite with like the randomized aspects. It doesn't change the fact that there's enough consistency to it that you can devise a plan, and even if a certain buff is not available on the floor that you would like at the earliest opportunity, it'll probably still show itself, like, 2 or 3 floors down the line.
Yeah.
And you'll still get to the points you need to by the time you're in the home stretch.
Yeah, there's, like, Binding of Isaac's probably the one that most people will be familiar with. And there's some builds which will require you to get, like, something like a 1 in 256 or 1 in 1 million chance of getting. And if you get it, then if you get that godly roll, then you have the rest of the run made. And if you don't, then you are struggling for the entire game.
Yeah, like, I played Binding of Isaac, like, way back, and I totally understood, like, kind of the craft that went into it and why people like it. But it did solidify to me as well why, like, roguelite or, like, games are just, like, not a thing for me. Because it does feel like because as much as it is based on, like, short play sessions, much like an arcade game, it feels so fundamentally different to actual arcade games. Because the thing that makes me appreciate arcade games and want to get better is because of how predeterministic they are. Like, their challenges are set in stone. They want you to learn the nuances of it in a way that is consistent and makes you feel like at every step that, yes, I can be better at this because I can prepare for these exact situations.
Yeah.
You can't really prepare as much as you can only just react in a game like Binding of Isaac.
Yeah, there are some where, you know, you have maybe more limited item pool, or you can, you know, really plan out your build earlier on and stick with it and be more consistent about that. And then you've got stuff like the Binding of Isaac, where it's like, roll a dice, that's what you get. Sometimes literally, because, you know, there are like half a dozen dice in the game.
Yeah. You know what is actually, I'd say, my actual favorite roguelite type of experience in any game? And it's a DLC for an existing game, I should add. It's Prey Mooncrash.
Oh, yeah.
That mode is fan-fucking-tastic. Like, even as though that, like, it kind of shies away from the idea of, like, such a randomized mode, it hits that right balance of there is a consistency to the environment and like challenges you need to like overcome, but with enough randomized elements that you still get that need to like react to anything and devise a plan on the spot.
Yeah. I've not gotten into that as much as I probably should, because I fucking love Prey. That's genuinely one of my favorite games of like the last decade.
The best Arcane game. It's a shame that the part of Arcane that made it had to be shut down.
Yeah, unfortunately. I would have killed for them, because I mean, Prey was basically System Shock 2.5, and I would have killed for more games like that. You know, like Dishonored, fair enough, but that would, it's like, I like Dishonored. I loved that.
Same. Yeah, I love Prey. It is very much like, I wouldn't even say 2.5. I'd go as far as to say that is System Shock 3, because definitely no way we're getting 3 in our lifetime, I mean, or anyone's lifetime.
Yeah, well, I mean, it was in production for, what, 8 years before getting unceremoniously cancelled? Thanks, EA.
Or even just more like, I think it was just a matter of like the studio making it, which was run by like ex-Looking Glass devs, were just clearly no longer up to the task for it. Because that was also the same studio that made Underworld Ascendant, the worst possible spiritual successor to Ultima Underworld.
That is true.
There was a lot going against them.
That is a game I know purely by reputation, and it is not good.
It is a bad fucking reputation. Yeah. Absolutely.
It's also like, one of those games I always wind up forgetting, oh right, that was a thing.
Yeah. And like seeing how like what development problems it had that clearly led to that result, I'm not surprised that they were probably starting to go down that same path with System Shock 3 because of just obsessing way too much with like the systems instead of like actually getting the game part of it to make sense and be cohesive.
They wanted they wanted Warren Spector on board, and they got Phil Spector instead.
Oh, damn.
With all that entailed.
Alright, time to beat up Smidge again.
So is it just a matter of beating him up and then the challenge ends, or do you also have to take out the backing band as well?
It's just Smidge. Once you get him to do his little clap, that's the end. Like, all the enemies are just obstacles. And you can imagine how much more of a struggle it is to do it this way when you've got all these enemies, including like the aerial bombers, like literally just getting ready to hit you from above.
It's a real shame as well that you don't have any of the spare health tanks, because it'd be perfect for filling them up on these stages. Yeah.
In fact, because that is definitely another thing. Yeah, it's so easy to forget now that I think more about it. The fact that like that the health reserve tanks are actually a thing, because it is like once you get good enough with the game and have those filled up, it's like, especially with a max health bar during the main game, it's like it's very rare that you're ever going to get to a point where like something just causes you to lose your first health bar.
Yeah, I mean to my notice, even with the, just obviously in the post game, you've only used them like twice, and one of them was just in the previous game mode.
Yeah, BPM Rush, you actually saw it like use up a full tank because the damage being done at the end of the explode was extreme. Like not even Rhythm Tower mode did it get used, which was a shock when I recorded that, because I recall Rogue for absolutely like depleting it every time I would play it. Yeah. But I guess that just goes to show how much better at the game I've gotten as I continue to play it.
Yeah.
But now the whole Brutal family is here, and it's time to disassemble them.
And the worst family reunion since my last one.
Yeah. There is a funny story about the Shin Brutal, though, because so far, when you think about all of like the post-game enemies, the stuff that have been in the additional game modes, like they've been featured as like something that you could almost miss in the main game, but not as enemies. Like we know about the sunbathing saber unit from like the first track. We've seen the crash test dummy in the testing area, and we've seen the gold Thanos looking Elite series and the Chemno Corps in the historical museum. But like the But obviously, I think like the red version of the Brutal, I don't think there was any sign of it. Maybe it was another random display I'm forgetting of in the museum, because that would be the best place for it to be. But the Shin Brutal never has any like Easter egg cameo type of appearance in the main game. It does show up in another area though, as part of this post-release update that isn't combat related. And oh boy, if you thought this game was done like calling back to previous jokes that have a long payoff, I'll leave you the mull over what that might be, but you'll know by the time the final update comes out.
That is distressing.
Yeah. because really, looking at how fucking metal all the Brutals are, like, what could they possibly conceive the Shin Brutal of being advertised for that isn't just murdering everything?
I'm gonna
remember,
say
the regular Brutal was advertised as a hedge trimmer.
Hairdresser.
Yeah. Yeah, a very, very fine tailoring, stuff that requires bladed items to manage.
Oh god, it's a fucking surgery bot, isn't it? Brain surgery.
I wish. That was also my first inclination, if I'm being fair.
Yeah.
Turns out the Shin Brutal was what Zanzo wanted to be in charge of the Project Armstrong candidates. Like, he would be the one in charge of the procedure.
Yeah. Like, the kind of surgery you get right out of Saw 3.
It would just be the start of Bioforge, basically. Like, it would just cut you up and then graft a bunch of god-awful machinery to you. Also, there's a fork.
Has anyone seen Tetsuo the Iron Man? Because I'm getting kind of flashbacks.
Ooh. Oh god. You just reminded me someone I know on I've seen on a Discord I know actually
Don't
has
like
like
where
an
this
animated,
is going, but okay.
they have a Tetsuo the Iron Man gif for like their avatar that is just like the drill dick.
Oh, okay.
And with like the girl just looking at it,
yeah.
I think it was, or the guy just seeing it like, as it's just revving up. And I didn't recognize it at first because of how small it was. He only brought it up because it was like, so one of the other servers I'm in doesn't seem to appreciate my Tetsuo the Iron Man avatar. And then looking at it closer and realizing, like, gee, I wonder why. Oh, goons. Never change.
Just saying, mentioning Tetsuo the Iron Man and then going, that reminds me of someone I know, and I'm like, do I want to know where this is headed, or shall I just check out of the conversation now?
I mean, I say no, but again, it's the sort of thing where, like, I just know their name and avatar exists on one of the servers I'm in. It's not like a friend basis, but they're good people at least. Again, it's just, we're goons. We know how they are.
Yeah, it's a special type of individual, and by special I mean is on multiple watch lists.
Anything for shock. Yeah. But here we are, the final few floors. We're at a pretty high BPM. Again, faster than the main game. I'm pretty sure it's like, just getting faster towards like 185, 200. Yeah. And the League of Evil executives are watching us as we try and make it to the finish line. But fortunately, this is where we are basically at our absolute best possible, because we've gotten all like the defense and like attack upgrades that I need. Our partners are super strong. Like, seriously, it is like, as much as it looks like these final few waves can be pretty overwhelming, it's like, I would say that this is like the final test to prove that you understand the importance of specializing in a particular playstyle rather than trying to spread your resources even.
Yeah.
So, this is absolutely meant to punish a jack of all trades.
Yeah. It's there are some games, especially roguelike style, where you really need to focus on one or two main stats, and trying to spread yourself thin just results in an incredibly cheap build.
Oh yeah. But yeah, like this is the run. Like, I was so excited when I got to this point that it's like nothing is gonna stop me. I'm pretty sure, and like I just do not get another death. It's just gonna work out for me in the end. This is great. Everything's coming up Millhouse. I was tempted to pick Karma, but I was like, I didn't want to risk it with such a low health bar.
Stick with Mr. Self-Destruct.
Oh yeah, which is definitely, I appreciate the continued 9 Inch Nails references in this game. I was smiling when I saw that the first time.
Also one of my favorite 9 Inch Nails songs, weirdly.
Yeah. It's a fucking hell of an opener for the Downward Spiral.
Oh,
it's exactly the song you need to like prepare you for the fucking journey you're about to go on.
As a statement of intent, it's difficult to top.
Yeah. Yeah, but that's obviously, you know, God, yeah, like that song's good, but also Piggy, March of the Pigs.
Both versions of Ruiner, actually.
Yeah, I also have like a pretty soft, I have a pretty big fondness for Heretic. Yeah. Obviously, Closer goes without saying. Oh, Heresy. Yeah. Fuck. God damn it. Turn in my fan card. Son of a bitch.
Yeah, for a second there I was like, yeah, hang on a minute.
I know it was some form of heresy.
You bring great shame.
I mean the whole fucking song is about gloating how God is dead. Like it's pretty much like designed to just fucking piss off everyone who believes in the religion.
God is dead, no one care.
Yeah. Yeah. Such good shit on that album. It's the sort of thing where like if you were to like take the concept of like making more video games that are synced to like 9 Inch Nails like soundtracks and music, like the Downward Spiral would absolutely have to be part of like a horror game.
Oh yeah, it would be. You would need to have something like Dante's Inferno, the PS3 Xbox game from back in the day.
Yeah.
Which would also get extra irony points.
There we go. S rank. 91% just timing. Highest combo 162. Playtime, you know, is a little, like, just under 40 minutes total. 1 game over. 58 times score multiplier. That score is fucking insane. It is designed to just give you such a high if you love big numbers.
Holy hell. And also, Cinnamon is, enamored.
But that's not the end of the Let's Play. There's one more video to show. The reward, the ultimate reward for getting this far.
Bonus track, motherfuckers!